Hey Seth, welcome.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going really great.
Good.
Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So we have people filing in. I saw a question, what is this live about today? And just wanted to share with everyone before we dive in that I work at Mindbloom here, and Seth is one of our clients at Mindbloom. And for those of you not familiar with Mindbloom, we are an at-home remote ketamine therapy company. So we support clients and utilizing ketamine therapy in the comfort of their own homes to get past symptoms of anxiety and depression and learn a different way to live. And with that, Seth has been a client with us for a couple of years, and he's here to share with us a bit about his experience. So, Seth, thinking we could start by you just sharing a bit about your journey to Mindbloom and what had you end up choosing Mindbloom for mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, thanks for having me. Excited to be here. Um, yeah, it was an interesting journey. So, like most people in life, life happens, right? So, I probably had like three significant traumatic experiences in my life. First off, I'm a first responder, so the weight of that job can sometimes be overwhelming. I'm the type of person who's like anxiety, depression, PTSD, those symptoms, that'll never happen to me, right? I used to think that the only people that happened to or got seasonal allergies were nerds, and I have both now, so that's kind of where I'm at. So yeah, traumatic experiences at work, and then two different just life experiences that led to some anxiety, some depression, and then eventually PTSD diagnosis. So and it was kind of like desperate times called for desperate measures, right? So I tried talk therapy for years and years, and it kind of just got to a point where I was just showing up just to show up. And it's not that it wasn't helpful, it was more or less like wasn't getting where I thought I should be. So I looked into ketamine therapy um, a couple times and was just kind of like, I don't know about that. Why would I take a drug or something like that? My goal here is I'm already on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications, why would I want to do that as well? So it was kind of sitting on the fence about it for quite some time. And like I said, it was just desperate times call for desperate measures. I was tired of feeling the way that I was feeling. Had tried a lot of different things, and it was just like, what do I have to lose? This can't be worse than how I already feel. So let's give it a try, and that's what led me to you guys. And I'm thrilled that I did because I'm sure everyone will hear by the end of this. It was a 180 turnaround experience for me.
Mm, amazing. Thank you for sharing a bit about your path to Mindbloom. And you mentioned it's kind of this 180 experience. Could you speak a bit to that piece? Like what are some of the big changes you've noticed in how you
Sure.
live your day-to-day life today?
Yeah, so like I said, the anxiety, which then became a PTSD thing after some more traumatic experience happened, kind of during the course of actually being on this program. And it was the day-to-day living with just like something bad is going to happen. I would wake up and have a pit in my stomach. I would have trouble going to sleep, or I'd have trouble waking up. And then when I did wake up, there was just that overwhelming feeling like today's the day something's going to happen, and it's not going to be good, whatever it is. And it was just really tired of feeling that way because who wants to feel that way, that visceral stomach feeling? And and just the day-to-day, like something is about to happen feeling. And as of today, I can report that as far as PTSD symptoms are, essentially I have none. That's gone. Depression is completely gone. I absolutely love my life. Um, it's it's the greatest. I love myself, which is a very, very weird thing to have to come to terms with. But when you realize for a long time that you don't, then when you do, it's an astounding feeling to have. Um, yeah, like I said, as far as PTSD, gone, completely gone. Depression, gone. I'm not going to say that I'm totally cured of everything, right? So we all have good and bad days, right? So a little anxiety here and there does sneak up, but now I can at least sit back, observe it from a different perspective, and go, oh, I'm just a person in this world who's experiencing a little anxiety right now, and that's totally fine by me. And that kind of switches flips the switch to accept it as opposed to be like, no, 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 no. It's just more of, oh, I feel this way. Okay, I'm experiencing this now and moving forward.
Wow. Yeah, beautiful. It sounds like one of the main pieces of your healing journey with ketamine was being able to see the emotions and the thoughts come through from kind of like a third eye perspective, like a objective view versus like really identifying with it and letting it kind of consume your day-to-day experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was like for years I told myself this story, right, about who I was. And, through some of the experiences I had with Mindbloom, I was able to sit back and realize, like, I'm not even that story. That was a character that I made up. And if I made up that character, why don't we just make up a new character and be that instead? And that's what I started doing. And, you know, it's totally changed, my life and my perspective of things. And yeah, having that observer effect, like, I'm aware currently we're having this conversation. However, there's awareness that sits behind that that's aware that this is happening. And I try and tune in back to that awareness instead of just living the story and being the character. I'd rather sit it from the perspective of being the observer of the character and not judging and not freaking and just staying in this moment. As I like to say, there's pretty much only three places to live. It's either in the future, which doesn't exist, the past, which is gone, and your brain created about 80% of that at this point in time. So that's not real either. So the only thing that's real is right now in this moment. And that's where I'm going to try and stay as much as possible, right here in this present moment.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's really cool to hear how this medicine has given you really a container to step more into that present moment and realize more of who you really are. And I love too how you mentioned it's not like a one session and we're all of a sudden in this super mindful present state,
Yeah,
right? Like you've been working
yeah,
with this medicine for a while now and building and integrating. And speaking of which, that's something we really emphasize here at
sure.
Mindbloom. Like, yes, the medicine is one part of the equation, but so is the integration piece or the work that the client does in the interim between sessions. So could you speak a bit to that, like about what integration means for you, maybe what it looks like for you and why it was important for you?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm a big proponent of integration. It's like, I like to say that the ketamine did the heavy lifting, but unfortunately, you guys don't get all the credit. I get all the credit, right? So none of this will work out unless I did the work, and that's what the integration process is. So if you don't integrate, then you're just taking drugs. So there'd be absolutely no point to doing this at all. If you just want to have an experience and see cool things and get nothing out of it, then you're just using drugs. Um, so integration is the number one thing. So like my favorite part about my sessions is not the hour that they last. It's about the hour before where I can prep for it. Big fan of meditation and getting into that present moment, as well as just calming myself, getting in a good headspace. I do the experience, lasts about an hour, we'll say hour and a half. There's some journaling after, which journaling is something that I've never done before, and Mindbloom kind of prompts and requires, right? So that's a great integration thing. So after the experience, I write all that stuff down, and then like I can look back on it days, even weeks later, right? So it's kind of like a reflection. Why did I see the things that I saw? Why did I feel the way that I feel? What occurred during my session, and then I take that and I try and integrate it in other ways too. So I'll try and be as present and mindful as possible. For me, one of my big things is like going outside into nature, right? Even if it's simple, it's just taking a walk around the block. Big fan of hiking, camping. If I can get out and do some hiking, even if it's just by myself, actually, especially by myself, that the solo hiking is a great time of just silence and reflections. And, there's some therapeutic benefits of being in nature as well. Um, and for me, the session, you have that neuroplastic effect. And for anybody who doesn't know what that means, a good way that it was explained to me early on is that essentially the ketamine kind of leaves your brain in this multiple clay fashion for the next, 2 weeks. All right. So that's your time to kind of rewire and frame that new story for yourself. So I could take that, and continue to meditate for the next couple weeks, which I do anyways. Do my hiking, my journaling, my reflection, and just try and make that experience worth, you know, I'm going to say every penny for lack of a better word, but like every bit as meaningful as possible, and try and see what lessons, what insights came out, and what do they mean. And when I say insights, I mean the things that your subconscious mind, or at this point in time, I just call it the universal consciousness because I've came up with insights that I've never thought of in my entire life. I'm like, it's got to come from somewhere. So I'll just thank the universal consciousness for giving it to me, and just reflecting on that and making the most out of it and then going from there. So, yeah, I mean, integration can be different from everybody. There's tons of different methods. During the Mindbloom process, I also got into um, ice baths, which I know sounds extreme, but for me, that's another thing to just like pull you into that moment, right? It just that you can be nowhere else besides right there in ice water. So that's something I do every single day. I mean, I kind of set my every day is kind of like an integration process, self-care, and that's really what this is all about. There's nobody that can do this for you. You can only do it for yourself. And if you're not willing to put forth the effort, then this isn't going to work for you as well as somebody who is going to put forth the effort.
Yeah, very, very good points there. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to emphasize that the medicine is, again, that only one piece of the puzzle, and the rest of it is us, or what we choose to do. And the idea is that the medicine does induce that neuroplasticity or activate, more parts of our brain, allowing more flexibility for us to choose different thought patterns, behavior patterns, etc. And then we get to choose to play with that, after each session. And they really do build upon the last session. And speaking of which, all of the sessions can look really, really different from one another as well. I'm sure you're well aware.
Yeah.
And I saw somebody comment in the chat, like, is the experience itself scary? And wondering if you could speak to that, how
Sure.
the sessions were different for you
Sure.
and how you might say that.
Yeah, so for me, like sometimes there's a common theme or there's like a particular something that I'll see, but it never looks the same, right? Like maybe it's a cartoon experience, maybe it's I don't know, claim it, anything your brain can think of a world to enter, you're gonna enter that type of world. And it's different and there might be, like I said, reoccurring themes, but is it scary? So I'm gonna be honest with you, I've had one scary experience ever, and I've done a decent amount of sessions. And it was kind of an experience that I asked for, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. But actually, my first ever experience, it was not scary, but it was kind of nervous starting, right? You don't know what you don't know. I didn't know. So it was just kind of the nerves of going into it. That was probably my first scary experience. And then after that, 99.9, nothing scary has happened. My first session ever actually is like one of the most profound sessions I ever had. And the reason why I'm going to tell this story is because it sounds scary. If you've not been through this, this is going to sound scary, right? So in this experience, I entered a house. Now, this particular house has existed in my real life, and I don't want to go back to this house. Yet, in this experience, I went to that house, and I went inside, and each room had a different traumatic experience from my life. Every room I looked in, I pretty much replayed what occurred in it, the different life experiences, and then eventually I just left the house and I came up with the insight of the house will always be there, but I don't need to live there anymore. And that was the end of that. So that might sound scary, right? To relive traumatic experiences. A lot of people, I would rather just avoid those. And actually, the medicine kind of gives you a detached perspective. So the only thing that happened in that experience was that I was, once again, just observing what was happening. There was no emotions. There was no fear. In my day-to-day life, these are things that I've thought of plenty of times. And thoughts can give you an emotional response as if it's actually really happening, right? Here I am, like, living it vividly, and there was no fear. It was just like, I'm checking it out. It was almost as though I was watching it happen to somebody else. It was definitely me, and I just walked away. Sometimes everything you want to be is on the other side of fear, as they say. And after that experience, it was just, like I said, the house will always be there, but I don't have to live there. And that's where I walked away. The only scary experience I had, which when you go through the program, you set an intention ahead of time. I asked for an ego death experience, and I don't even know if I knew what that was like, exactly what that would be. And I had a bunch of experiences in the past, never anything that extreme. So I asked for this, and the only fear that I had is, as the medicine was coming on, was, why did you ask for that? No, 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 no. And it was but through integration and reflecting on the experience, that wasn't even me who was saying, that was my ego that did not want to be changed, right? So you ask for an ego death, all of a sudden it's like, no, no, whoa, hold on here. We don't want to do that. We want to be exactly who we are. I went through the experience. I knew it was happening. I was being like wheeled on a cart, and whoever was there was explaining like, hey, we have to change who you are now. And it was basically saying like, basically going to cut all these pieces off of you that you think you are, right? Not metaphorically speaking, like at one point in time, essentially my face was being cut off. And once again, sounds scary. It wasn't. It was like I just understood like that's not who you are. Like you think you're this character, you think you're this face, you think you're this life, and you're not. You're what's behind that. So I watched it all happen, and actually I was kind of like, we don't need to do any of this, remodeling of how I look type of thing. And it was like, but that's not who you are. You said you don't want to be that person anymore. And I was like, you know what? I guess my looks aren't everything. Take it. And they took everything from me, and that it was just a blank canvas again. Um, I came out of that experience not the same as the person who went in. And I don't mean that I changed a little. I mean, everything changed for me. That was over the summer, and I'm not the same person. And I mean that in the best way possible. So it's funny. You think that if you get rid of the self that you think that you are, there will be not much left behind. And the reality is you are way more than you ever thought that you were. And that's what I realized coming out of that, right? So the story, that character, that stuff, he doesn't exist anymore. And instead he's replaced with everything. I became literally everything. I became completely unlimited. I became whatever I want in life. That's who I am now. And it was, like I said, it was scary going in. The ego did not want it. And coming out, it really didn't exist anymore. And I had like some normal days after that. And then I woke up one morning and I was essentially just pure consciousness for days, right? Like it was like I woke up for the first time ever and was incredibly present, incredibly mindful, and just really observed life. And it was like the first time seeing everything with a look of wonder, like being a kid again, and just loving everything and being there for it. And I wish I could tell you that that continued to last and I still feel that way, but unfortunately, I've kind of, as I like to say, been plugged back in the matrix a little bit. And the only difference is now I'm aware that it exists and can pull myself out into this moment now. But I wouldn't trade that for the world. I mean, that was the most profound thing ever. I mean, that entire week was like, wow, I'm actually like awake finally and can see the world for what it is and see that all the thoughts that I've ever had about any condition I ever had or fear that I ever had was all fake because I made it all up. Nobody made it up for me. I made it up in my head. And I'm done telling stories. And if I catch myself telling a story and trying to buy into it, I more or less can go, oh, we're telling a story again. Why don't we just focus back on what's going on now and stay here instead? So there's a long answer. It's, has it ever been scary?
It was the best answer. Yeah. Wow, Seth, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing about what that experience was like, what the insight was that came from it, and like how you embody that today. And yeah, it's kind of like once you see something or once you have that insight, it's not like you can unsee it. But of course we can forget and we can, fall back into other patterns. But like you mentioned, that recovery time is a lot quicker because we have that awareness. I'm hearing that, through your share. I've heard that time and time again through clients. And that's where the work of integration comes in, right? Of revisiting those insights and being like, oh yeah, I remember this thing about myself, that I'm worthy of the life I want to live, that I can create the life I want to live. And then we take action from that place.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this really is, you know, I'm stealing a quote, but it really is a philosophy of action, right? So, like I said, you can't just show up, take a medicine, and hope that it changes and hopes that it works, right? Um, you got to put in the work. It's like a good phrase I like to use is like, you can't go to church on Sunday and be a jerk the rest of the week. It doesn't work that way. Um, and another thing that I should also mention, there's two things I want to mention. Number one is also since the summer, I don't take any medicine for anxiety, depression, anything. That's gone. The person who needed that, he's gone. He left that week. Um, and then the other thing I want to say is in regards to that integration too, Mindbloom pairs you with a guide. So before I forget, My guide's name is Jessica, and she is fantastic, and she's helped me break down experiences and push me further. And I understand, Asha, you're a guide as well. I'm sure you do a fantastic job, but I'm going to say, and I'm totally biased, that my guide is the greatest ever, and I want to thank her absolutely as well. So, because that's the thing about Mindbloom is like there's always somebody there, and you can text back and forth with your guide and everything, and you always have that. And if you ever need anything, I mean, you guys have been nothing but there for me, so I do appreciate it. So thank you as well.
Hmm. That's such a sweet shout out. Yeah, our guides are really, really incredible, and definitely be sure that Jessica knows that, what she's done for you. And yeah, that is something special about our program. We pair people with a guide to work through experiences. Like you said, you had one experience, it sounds like, that was pretty challenging, and you were able to work through that with your guide and really pull out the insights and come up with an integration action plan that would support you through that. So
Yeah.
while the majority of experiences do tend to be very relaxing and puts our bodies in this state of ease, like we never know what will come up, and that's part of the intention too, is just being open to the experience and learning from that for our highest good.
Yeah, I like the hashtag. This is one up. Hashtag Jessica's awesome. I agree. But yeah, and like we kind of touched on before, because I think a lot of people's fear is like, what if I have to see the reasons why that I'm even using this medicine, right? Like you're gonna probably see it, or it's gonna show you something you don't always want to see. Overall, though, the experiences are completely relaxing. Like I lay in bed, right, and I've never been like I got to get up and run around, or I'm really upset, or I need this to stop. That's never been the case. It's a very good dissociative medicine that lets you just observe it and see what it has to offer you. It's showing you something for a reason, and you know, you kind of got to go through some things every once in a while, but it is so much better when you get to the other side. It truly is. So, and that's something that you can journal about, integrate, reflect why you saw it, and you go from there. I mean, but like I said, 99.9% of my experiences have never been scary at all. So,
Beautiful. And Seth, we're coming up on our time together, but I want to ask one more question,
okay.
and then feel free to share anything else you feel like sharing. But curious what you might say to someone who's on the fence with trying Mindbloom.
Yeah, so great question. Yeah, the way I would answer it is simply just try it, right? So, but I think that is too simple of an answer. I think the answer goes deeper, and I'll use the example of the experience where I'd asked for the ego death and someone was afraid, right? So if you're on the fence about it, it's once again, that's not even you. Like the you that you are is like, I need help. The ego part of you is like, we're good, we got this, we don't need that. That part doesn't want to change. Okay, it really doesn't. It thinks you're the story, you're not the story, you're what's behind the story, and it's the ego that's going to keep you at bay from not experiencing it. So at the very least, go through the consult process and see what happens from there. I mean, this is a program that, you know, if it's not for you, it's not for you. They'll give you everything back. You literally have nothing to lose, um, and literally everything to gain. I mean, I think I'm the testament right here of like, what could I have lost? Like, the only thing I lost was the self that I thought I was to create this better self. So go.
Hmm. Amazing. What a beautiful message. Well, thank you, Seth, so much for being with us today and sharing your story. I know it impacted myself and many people watching today, and just appreciate you for being here so much. And everyone else in the chat, if you hopped in, later and weren't able to catch the full conversation, we will be posting this on our feed afterwards. So feel free to take a look and feel free to reach out to us directly with any questions if you're curious.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to have me. Um, this is something, a little known secret is you and I did a little meditation beforehand, and you told me to set an intention for the meditation. You asked me what my intention was, and my intention for this experience was to help as many people as possible. And I hope that this live did that, and I hope that somebody out there is inspired to get the help that they need, because you don't have to live the way that you feel. if you think that there's a better you available, I assure you there is. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Seth. Appreciate you so much. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Have a beautiful rest of your days.